Here is why you don't need to pass if you're trans. Why do we even feel pressured to constantly pass? Can trans people be transphobic when they push this kind of ideology onto other trans people? And how passing hurts everyone and not just trans women, and why we shouldn't think this way of like passing that everyone has to pass. And we've all probably heard, usually from other trans women who do pass, that other trans women who aren't even trying hard enough are hurting the reputation of all trans people and are making us look bad. And people who come to mind are like Blair White, that conservative who really pushes a lot of conservative values onto trans women. But yeah, by the end of this video, hopefully you feel a little bit better about yourself if you're constantly pressuring yourself to pass, or if you think that everyone should pass. I hope I changed your mind. If you like my content, I'm Juliet. I'm a trans woman. I discuss LGBTQ related topics with the goal of making you feel more empowered and just overall trying to spread that positivity. So please, if you can, like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of this. And for some motivation, here's a cute trans egg that I drew. And so when we talk about passing, we're talking about trying to look as cisgendered as possible. A cisgendered person basically is a person who was assigned either male or female at birth and identifies with the gender man or woman. And let me just say firstly that passing for safety reasons is valid, and that passing is a privilege that I myself have. Generally, I don't get misgendered. Some people don't even know that I'm trans, and so I'm able to really blend in. But people who are visibly trans because they're either tall or they have attributes that they can't change, and basically for those people who pass, they are a lot safer in society because, you know, people won't notice them as much. And oftentimes people who are visibly trans face more discrimination, more violence, and it's just really sad because no one deserves to go through that. Because women usually are considered to have to be small, they're not tall. And now I want to talk about how passing is reinforced through the media and the things that we're exposed to every single day. So when you think of media, when you think of the ads you see on Instagram, commercials, TV, and movies, there's a typical kind of woman that is more often representative, and usually they're a lighter skinned person, they're thin, you know, they meet these standards of beauty that are often set by cisgendered men who think that women only exist to be an object for them. Basically, that their existence and the way that they look is supposed to be for the male gaze. They're supposed to look attractive for a man. And like, women have bodily autonomy. Like, you're allowed to look however you want. Again, when we think about media, it's just like not representative of like the general population of women. There is tall women, there's short women, there's women with more muscles, there's larger women. And oftentimes beauty is associated with how young you are. And like youthfulness is considered beautiful. And as a woman ages, she's less attractive. But like, who sets these standards? It's usually men. And like, again, women do not exist for the sole purpose of being an object for men that they must conquer. This is misogyny. This is patriarchy and its values. That a man is supposed to be the dominant person in the world and they dictate what the world is supposed to look like. And if you're a darker skinned person like brown or black, you see this even more. You see yourself less represented in media. Usually you will see lighter skinned people, and that can lead into like self-esteem issues and confidence, because when we constantly see these types of women or these types of people represented, we start to think that there's something wrong with us because we don't look that way. But the truth is that not everyone is gonna look the same. Like, we're like almost 8 billion people on the planet, I think. And like, to expect that everyone is gonna meet these standards and like everyone is gonna look the same, like, it's just not realistic. It is not representative of the reality of like what people look like. We subconsciously start to think that, yeah, that is the only way that people should be accepted as. And so we start to pressure ourselves to have to pass. because people who do look that way usually get treated way better than others. So can trans women be transphobic when they think or push this kind of thinking that everyone needs to pass? Because like all trans people, they might have different goals than us. I mean, my goal is to look as feminine as possible. Some trans people might be gender fluid. They might be non-binary. Their goal is gonna be different than mine. Some trans women don't even go on hormones. They're just okay with their body but wanna express themselves as a woman, and that's totally okay for them because they have, again, bodily autonomy. They have the freedom to choose for themselves, and they're not really hurting anyone. Pushing this ideology that usually conservatives think that, again, a woman is supposed to look a certain way. Some people aren't gonna physically look like they pass. Some people are born with physical attributes, and that's okay. Like, we don't wanna treat people the way that others have treated us. Like, we don't wanna push hate. Same way that other people discriminate based on skin color or gender. Like, we're doing the same cycle. And who are we really trying to appease? We're trying to appease the other cisgendered people and the rest of society to accept us. But the truth is that they will probably never look at us as fully human. The same way that they say that trans people aren't really women. And if you are trying to appease them, you're basically trying to be a token. You're trying to tokenize yourself and being like, no, I'm a good trans woman. Or it just makes no sense to appease the people who are like setting these standards of all women, because like they are misogynist. They are usually conservatives. And so the problem isn't other trans women who in the reputation of trans people, rather it's society's lack of acceptance of other people who are different, who feel different, and people who go against that binary of either being a man or a woman. And like, again, it's like, do we want to reinforce that as trans women? And if we do reinforce that, we are ultimately being transphobic because we're discriminating other trans people for not having maybe the same goals as us, or not trying to look as cisgendered as possible. How the idea of passing also hurts cisgendered women and not just trans women. And again, because mostly in media, we only see like thinner women, like we forget that most women aren't gonna look like models, and they shouldn't have to. And I think just part of being a woman is having to deal with like people constantly objectifying you, commenting on your body, saying you're supposed to look this way. Cisgendered women have to deal with this all their lives. And like the other way it hurts cis women is basically when people start to trans investigate people and they try to accuse like cis women of being trans. Like, I remember on TikTok, I saw this incident of a lesbian woman who was dressed what we consider to be masculine, like in baggy clothing, baggy pants, not really revealing their body. And then someone called the police on her. And like the irony of everything is that it was two male police officers who went into the women's bathroom to like escort this woman out. And even though she was like dressed masculine, she considers herself a cisgendered woman because she chooses to identify as a woman and she likes her body parts, but she's just dressing a certain way. And like she has the freedom to do that. Like she's allowed to go into the women's bathroom. And the people who called the police on her, their fear is that men are gonna enter the women's bathroom. And it's just funny because like two men ended up going into the women's bathroom anyway. And usually these women who are scared of trans women going into the men's bathroom, because they see trans women not as real women, but men dressing up in like women's clothing and playing pretend, like their real issue isn't trans women, but rather men, and men who like do assaults and attack women and take advantage of women. And if a man wanted to commit a crime or an assault in the women's bathroom, do you think a sign that says women would even stop him? If that person set their mind to committing something like so horrendous like that, they were gonna probably do it anyway. And so the real issue is, why do men commit these crimes, or why do they resort to these actions? And that's a bigger societal issue that probably needs to be addressed. And you know how they say that comparison is the killer of joy? Cisgender women go through this too. This is basically happening to us when we start to compare ourselves. And I am victim to this, where I start to look at other people online and I'm like, why don't I look that way? I used to wish that I had lighter skin and I start to like really compare myself, like, oh, my boobs aren't big enough, my butt isn't big enough, this and that. Like, we start to shift focus away from our own bodies, our own self-love, and we start to look at other people's lives, and we come up with these hypotheticals of like, what if this, what if that. And for me personally, I used to always like wish that I was cisgendered, but the truth is that I will never be cisgendered. Like, it doesn't make sense to look outward to these people's lives, because like, I have to live my life and I have to go through my experience. And when I start to do that, I'm killing my own joy. Like, I'm ruining my present moments, and I'm like just putting myself in that negative headspace. And we as women hurt our confidence, our self-esteem. And in doing so, like, it leads to a bad experience overall. And you know, it's just, yes, it's the killer of joy. So the trans experience, I would say, will never fit into the binary, because our experience is completely different. We were not born cisgendered. Like, we had to learn how to be strong and resilient, and have to come out to a society that mostly and generally does not support us. And so I think that there is some beauty in that, because regardless of what others think, we have to get to that point where we choose to love ourselves enough to be ourselves regardless of what society tries to pressure us to be. And so like, I just think that that's beautiful, because in doing so, we learn how to love ourselves and to put what we think of ourselves first. And that's not without its challenges, right? Like, it's still like difficult, but I don't know, I think that it's beautiful to get to that point. It's like a level of consciousness that some people probably will never even get to. And again, when we're talking about people who are not going to fit the binary, you know, non-binary people exist. And being trans is kind of just an umbrella term. So, you know, it includes so many more people whose goals are not to be as feminine as possible. As trans people, we cannot punch down on others that don't have the goal of passing, because when we do so, we're siding with the same people who oppress us, who fetishize us, who think that women, all women, have to look a certain way. And the truth is that, again, everyone deserves happiness. Everyone deserves to show up and express themselves the way they want to. And if we can't agree with that, then freedom, we will never have it if we can't say that freedom is for everyone. Truly, we have to support all queer people across the board, and we have to believe freedom of expression is a human right. So we shouldn't say that other trans women who don't even try need to try harder because they're ruining our reputation. Rather, society should learn to catch up that other people exist. Honestly, gender is a cultural thing, and most people are not exposed to it, but again, queer, trans people will always exist. They've always existed. And again, it's society's lack of support for people who are different. So let me know if I changed your mind, or if you disagree with me. Let me know down in the comments down below. I'm looking forward to having this discussion and hearing from all of you and what you think. And I also have set up a Discord, so I'll keep the link down below, but it is a work in progress. And, you know, eventually it'll get better, but I'm trying to create a community for us to have. And yeah, so hopefully you join that. I also have an HRT 4-year update video if you want to watch that and hear how my experience has been being 4 years on hormones and how my life has changed. And then I have another video if you're questioning that if you're trans. I have some answers and some perspective to that. But anyways, again, like the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!